I was scrolling through Instagram the other day, and I was served an ad for fitness business coaching. I don't know whether you've ever seen one of these ads.
6-figure fit pro in 6 days.
All that sort of stuff, yeah. Probably seen one or two. So this particular ad was using an analogy to get a point across. It's used quite a bit, and I think it is the most stupid comparison that people use in their marketing and the sales to try to sell their service. So intro. So you've probably seen this before. It's like, obviously, I feel like we're always in this battle with coaches who are saying, sell high ticket. And we kind of say the opposite to that. This argument was, the reason why you should sell high ticket is Rolex sell the same thing as a Casio, but they sell it at 100 times the price as the Casio do. Therefore, it's just, you've got a mindset problem about price. And that's why you're not selling.
Let's tell that to the CEO of Casio. Be like, oh, why didn't I think to charge $5,000 for my watches?
Yeah. I mean, I understand the point, and I think like at a high level, you're like, oh yeah, and then you think about it for a second, and you're like, well, hang on, it's not really the same thing, and it also has limits to the idea, doesn't it?
It's one of those comparisons that sounds really edgy and like mind blowing, and then you think about it for more than 3 seconds, and you're like, oh no, actually, it doesn't hold up at all.
Yeah. Well, so I think the first, like the advice of just up your price. So like, I want to scale my business, I'll add a zero to your price. Like that, obviously, as a thought experiment, has very obvious limits. Because someone charging $3,000, like, why aren't they charging 30? They just have a mindset problem. But I think the people arguing that very quickly agree that no, $30,000 is too much money. So why is $30,000 too much money? Like, what is it about it that makes it too much?
It's what else can you get in that price range for $30,000?
Yeah. And like, what is the average price of the other services as well?
If you've got two people at a party and one of them's like, oh, I've just spent $3,000 on this watch, do you like it? The other's like, oh, I spent $3,000 on a personal trainer, and he sends me recipes that he's bought from some 6-figure fit pro character and then put his logo on. You'd be like,
yeah,
you spent $3,000 on, and you're still fat.
Well, that's exactly the point, right? Which is that, yes, a Rolex is more than a Casio, but people at the party go, I've just spent $3,000 on a watch, do you like it? And that's almost like, that adds to it, the fact that it's expensive. That's the point of a Rolex is like, it's expensive, it's exclusive. The inference is, you've done well, like you're successful, and famous people have them, and all that sort of stuff, right? Like, that's why it's an object of desire. To say I spent $3,000 on a personal trainer, like the inference there is like, well, were you mugged off? Or like, because my personal trainer is £30 an hour, right? Why was yours so expensive?
What could you possibly have got from your personal trainer that makes him 100 times better than my personal trainer?
Yeah. I don't know. I see, on these ads, there's tons of testimonials of people who've done very well. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just not sold on the idea. And obviously we don't do it. We didn't grow Propane Fitness by doing that. We tried it. We didn't like it. Because I think there's some sort of, I feel like there's an ethical concern with it personally. I think we probably both felt like that, right?
Yeah, it's that there are people who will pay that, and you can try your level best to give £3,000 worth of value to someone, but really fat loss, losing 10, 15 kilos is not a £3,000 problem.
Yeah.
If someone's correctly motivated, it's a £10 problem. They can buy a £10 ebook, get all the inputs that they need, and then go away and do it.
That's a great point. Like, and then if someone isn't correctly motivated, then
the accountability comes in,
yeah.
And that's what you pay for with check-ins and reporting and so on. And
that's where I think it's like, it's a problem that's, for most people, for the average consumer, it's like a couple of £100 a month, right? As an issue, as a problem. Yeah, you might pay a higher number for a block up front or something like that. But we will speak to coaches who've been encouraged to sell their programs or their coaching for $5,000. And I think, and then their market, you speak about like, well, who are you selling it to? It's like, oh, it's like busy professionals and all that sort of stuff. And like, men and women in very high paid jobs and stuff like that. And a lot of our friends are those people. And when I've discussed this with them, it's a point of ridicule that someone would try and sell them something for that amount of money that's just basically just communicating with someone on WhatsApp or Messenger or even in like a designated app. Still doesn't, when you think about like, if I gave you $5,000 and you could just go and spend that on whatever you wanted, what you could actually acquire for $5,000, like in either like holidays, experiences, possessions, upgrades to your house, whatever you want, right? It's a fairly sizable amount of money in terms of what it represents you can buy. And all the person, if you imagine two people, one of them's paying £100 a month for an online coach and the other one's paid $5,000, and both are 12-week packages, and both of them hit their target weight loss goal. Like which person had a better experience? Like did the person who paid $5,000 and got daily check-ins or daily recipes or whatever, is it a better experience if they both reach their goal?
Well, what we've found is that the people who pay £100 a month, they love the process. It's semi-automated, it's systematized, so their expectation isn't as high. And because they get the results and they enjoy working with you, they stay with you for longer. And quite often, the lifetime value of that client can often be £5,000, £6,000, £7,000, £8,000.
Yeah.
Over the long term.
And the retort to that is like, yeah, but they've got to work with you for years. But that should be a good thing, I think. Because like, how much can you help someone over 8 years versus over 12 weeks? And if it's only an issue if the system you have built is very reliant on your time. Like if somebody can just be in your ecosystem for 5, 6, 7 years and get results all the time, and you aren't necessarily directly aware of the fact that that's happening, in the sense that that client doesn't equate to an hour every Friday night on a live check-in or writing programs, why does it matter? It's just someone accessing your expertise and your information. There's a equation that I think one of our coaches gave us over time, which was like, how do people say that, oh, you should try and maximize the value of what you do, right, as a coach, and how do you define value? And this equation was just the result that somebody gets divided by the price. So it's the size of the result divided by the price. So back to that example I gave, like if two people have achieved the same result, let's say that's like abs lean for a photo shoot or whatever, one person's paid $5,000, the other one's paid £300. The person who's paid £300 has had significantly more value than the person who's paid $5,000, which means the person, to equate value in those two scenarios, the person who pays $5,000 has to be getting something as an outcome from the coaching that is in a different galaxy compared to what the person who's paying £300 is getting.
This is why your repeat customers for high ticket are very rare, because there's only so many times that someone can remortgage their house to sign up for something. Whereas if it's part of their normal expenses, I've been with coaches for years because it's a manageable thing that I'm happy to be with for a long time. There is the argument, of course, that if you're just wanting to get into shape, it should be like a driving instructor, that you hire someone for 6 months or a year or whatever to just get you up to speed, and then they can graduate from needing you. And we have many clients like that. But also, we still have coaches because we see the value in the accountability and the objectivity and the kind of long-term relationship, the continuity that you get from that as well.
I think, so I agree. It's like, you do whatever it is. I can't remember how long it took me to learn to drive. Probably too long. But like you buy a pack of lessons and then you've learned to drive and then you're off on your own. I guess you build a skill over time. I think the difference in self-managing diet and training is it's such a dynamic, like constantly changing thing. That's very, like, I don't know about you, but I'm quite invested in the outcome of my diet and training. Like I feel like I spend quite a lot of time doing it. I quite like it to work. And so that means that I immediately become irrational as soon as I sit down and like open my client file that's got my name on it and try to do my own programming. I'm like, oh, well, I need something different. Like I need the magical program. Not what I give all my clients. Like I must need the special one. So I think that's worth paying for. Like I don't think
Yeah.
that ever stops being worth the money, as long as it's a regular, like affordable cost.
And you're trying to take yourself to new levels of performance each time. You're trying to really better yourself each year, rather than just drag yourself over the line of basic competence and then be like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, yeah. Like if I was trying to be the best driver in the world, I imagine I've done more than just my driving test. I'm
Yeah,
not
you
saying I want
wouldn't
to be the best whatever in the world, but like I don't think all drivers are constantly trying to finesse their driving skills on the road to make them really comply with the highway code. They just want to get to work and not crash and not get a parking ticket. But yeah, it's an interesting one because I feel like pretty much every ad I see is saying the opposite to what we say. And I think I know why. Like, I think it's because in the same way, like fat loss programs wouldn't be appealing if they were marketed as like, look, realistically, for you to hit your target weight, it's 2 years of consistent training and tracking. Like, it's sexy to say it's 8 weeks, right? Like, it's exciting. No one wants to hear it'll take a long time and it's very difficult. They want to hear it's easy and it'll take not very long. And I think high ticket's the same.
It's the same trick that all the cowboy online trainers use, which is if you give people mad starvation diets, you're going to produce, coach 100 people, 3 of them are going to actually be crazy enough to be able to stick with that diet and have enough grit to just lose ridiculous amounts of weight, crash their metabolism and their psychology, but great before and after picture, and then they can plug that to other people on their adverts. And it's the same with 6-figure Fit Pro type business gurus that recommend high ticket. It works for maybe 3% of the people that they're working with, but those 3% can then go on a testimonial and be like, I made 20 grand this month, forgetting or conveniently ignoring the fact that the people who made 20 grand in that month made 2 grand the following month or 0 the next month because they've got no repeat customers.
Yeah. 20 grand in a month, not 20 grand a month. Like can easily become 20 grand in 6 months, as you said.
And that's 20 grand of upfront sales for the next 12-week packages.
Yeah. Because this is the other thing, right? Like in accounting, technically, that is like revenue that would be recognized across the period that someone's working with you. So to say like, oh, I've made all this money on day one, great. Yeah, but like that's attached to a 6-month service. So like there's an argument that you should be spreading it out and saying it's this much per month, right? If you were being picky. But I think that's the problem with it is that you recognize this sale on day one. Or some people will even sell a payment plan. So they'll sell a payment plan for like $500 a month for 6 months or whatever and say like, this, or you sell like 10 of those clients and you add up the value of every single one of them and say, that's my revenue for this month, even though cash collected's tiny in comparison. There's lots of ways that you can sort of change things to make them seem more impressive, make it seem more exciting. And ultimately,
ways that you can jimmy the numbers.
Jimmy the numbers. Like who doesn't want, like as a new business owner, as an online business owner, who doesn't find the idea of like 30 grand a month exciting? I suppose that maybe some people think that sounds like a lot of work, but obviously that's more enticing than 3 grand, right? But it's what you have to do to achieve that and what that actually represents and means.
Wouldn't you rather have 50 low maintenance customers paying a moderate price than 3 customers paying a massive price?
Yeah.
Because then if you lose that one customer, that's a third of your revenue gone.
Or maybe they hang up the phone and they go tell their partner, like, I've just spent 5 grand on a coach. And they go,
you did right, cancel the cards.
Yeah. So funny enough, in like some of the presentations we do, I have this idea, this thing of like the like meeting your friends for coffee test, which is this idea that like, if you like, let's say for the first time in your life, you've got in shape for the first time ever and you look amazing. And whenever you meet anybody, they go like, wow, you've lost weight. You look really good. And you meet a group of friends that you've not seen for ages and you sit down and they go, wow, you look great. Like, what have you been doing? I've been working with this coach online. Like, great. It's really good. Would you recommend him? Yeah, I'd recommend him. Or how much is it? Oh, it was 5 grand. Yeah. Like no one's going to go like, oh my God, wow. Like, how do I pay? And I actually had a real life experience of this. at one of the 35 weddings that I went to after the world opened back up again. And I met this guy who was into fitness. We started talking about like his diet, his training, how he'd lost loads of weight over lockdown and COVID. Said he'd worked with an online, like asked what I did, which is always a weird conversation, by the way, if you're an online coach. He's a lawyer, so that was very easy for him to explain. But he said, I work with an online coach. And the only thing he said about it was the price, which, I mean, I won't go into details. It was about £1,000. This guy, I know the person as well. I won't mention who it is for obvious reasons, but that's all he spoke about was how expensive it was. And obviously he's lost weight, right? He's happy about the result. He's happy about what he got out of it, but he's not still working with the person. And all he referred to was the price. So, and he almost felt like I could see he was trying to like justify why he'd spent the money rather than what a great deal, right? And I think the best testimonial you can ever get is that clients just stay with you. Because I asked him, why did you not renew? And the price was the reason. And this guy's a partner in a law firm, right? So that he is the definition of a successful busy professional, and considered it too expensive. So
I mean,
that's not.
if you really want to do it on the cheap, you can use a free macro calculator like the one on our website, and then have an agreement with a friend that you'll just wire them £1,000 if you don't hit your calorie targets every week.
Yeah,
there you go.
A friend,
Free
I
fat
guess,
loss.
that you absolutely trust to definitely take the £1,000. I suppose who's not going to want to get the £1,000 they're owed. But yeah, it's. I don't know. I suppose like, what do we see what is the alternative? I think it comes back to that value equation I spoke about. So result divided by price. And if you think about that, it's like, well, high ticket coaches will justify what they're doing by saying that their client gets more support, that their client gets more customization. And we've even, like, when we say stuff like this on social media, it does bother some people who do high ticket coaching. We're not saying that what you're doing is wrong. It's just that we think for a business that is still operating and growing in 5-10 years time, like Propane's been around for 10 years. So like, we think to make that work, mid-ticket and lifetime value are the levers to pull to achieve that. So anyway, that some of those coaches will say like, oh, but clients are more bought in, they're more committed if they pay more money and all that sort of stuff. But I don't think like that's not the result. That's not why somebody's paying you. Like you'll always get different grades of buy-in or different grades of commitment, variations in service. But someone pays to lose weight, get stronger, rehab an injury, whatever it is, right? That's what they're paying for. So if there's somebody out there now who is doing the same service as you, and they're using apps and automations and systems and software to mean that they can deliver a good quality service without being attached to their time, and they're doing it for 1/10 of the price that you are, fast forward 2 years' time, which business is still operating? And like, maybe I'm wrong, but I can't reconcile that and put it together and think the high price, unless something changes in the market whereby high ticket coaches are able to like really crank up the results that somebody gets, like the rate of the result, the speed of fat loss, the way that the service works on the internet, something like that, which I suppose is possible. But if it's just communicating with a client over the internet in different ways, and you can buy from someone who's doing it in a more affordable way, I think that's what'll still exist in 5 years' time. But
so what's next, Johnny? How do you ensure that you exist in 5 years' time?
I've got no idea.
I mean, you can always get on the phone with us. We have a number of slots every week where you can chat through your business model. We can see if we can help. We speak to a lot of people who have been burnt by the high ticket flame, the high ticket
There has
hot.
to be a flame to burn, doesn't it? There has to be some flame involved for the burning.
There we go. So we'll help you see the light. We'll help you get some systems in place so you have the capacity for 50, 100 clients, less stress, help more people, and escape the having to constantly sell people on the phone for a $5,000 fat loss program.
And just to touch on one quick thing, Because people hear that and they're like, you guys are hypocrites. Here you are talking about how you shouldn't do high ticket fitness coaching and sales calls, but to buy your business program, I've got to book a sales call. Why is that? Some of you watching this will probably have been on one of those calls before. It is the furthest thing away from a sales call we can physically manage on the phone. So it's a relaxed conversation. We have had in the past people sign up for Propane Business when it was just available to buy on a sales page that weren't really a fit for it. Obviously, what we're looking for is people who are a fit for it, who are in the right position, who have the right problems, who have the right expertise to actually make use of the course and the program. So that's really all it's for. And also, people tend to have a ton of questions, and there's only so many questions you can fit on a frequently asked questions thing, or over DM or something like that. It's easy to just have a conversation. And without going into pricing, like what we charge for our business program that comes with unlimited access and unlimited coaching and support is cheaper than what a lot of these fitness coaches are selling their fitness coaching for. So yeah, it's just an initial discussion to see if we can help. And if you're thinking like, I'd like to see what these guys do prior to that, there's a link in the video in the description below to basically an overview training of like literally as much free information as we can give away before we have to obviously work with you to apply it to your business. So if you want to try what we teach for free, you can get that in the video below as well.